Hello. Hi everyone. I started a minute earlier. I want to check if I can see the comments and if everyone can hear me. Say hello if you're connecting live. Let me know where are you watching from. I'm trying to find the live on my laptop so I can read the comments. Hi Heather. Yay, Michigan. Well, I'm trying to find, oh, I think I found it. I'm trying to find myself on the laptop. I think that it is. So, hello everyone. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm pretty nervous. The camera is always intimidating, so let's be patient. I am Vanessa from Grand Rapids, Michigan. I own a baking business. It's called Sweet Details here. I started 10 years ago. And long story short, I went to design school. I'm from Cuba, so bear with me. Some of the terms and some of the words might be different. So if there's something that you're not understanding, just let me know and I'll try to find different words. So I went to design school in Cuba, and short before graduating, I started a business with my brother, and we were doing graphic design for the private business in Cuba, and it was pretty good because it was flourishing, the private sector there, and pretty much everybody needed a logo, a sign, menus, and all sort of marketing stuff. So we did that for a while. My brother still keeps the business after 10 years, and well, I decided to start baking, and I didn't abandon the design career. It is in my blood, so not only I kind of apply it on my own business, but I recently started again designing and making logos, especially for fellow bakers. So I'm pretty excited about doing both things that I really love. So just a second so I can see myself here. Okay, I think that's good. I can read the comments. And what are we going to be talking about today? I hope everybody is excited. I'm thrilled that the twins invited me to talk a little bit about logos and branding, and I'm by no means an expert. As I said, I went to school. I have all the theory. I did it for a few years. But well, don't take my word like the final word, okay? I'm going to share with you some basic aspects and things that you need to have in mind when getting a logo. We're not going to learn how to design a logo here today, but whether you want to do it yourself or you want to commission the work, we're going to be talking about some things that you need to really keep in mind to have a successful logo and to be able to apply it later on your marketing materials and in general for the branding on your business. So why are logos important? When I started, it was funny because when I started 10 years ago baking, even though I was a designer, I had a lot of brochures and catalogs, and I didn't even have a business name, so I didn't have a logo for a while. And it was funny because I had all these materials designed, printed, and looking good, and there was no logo. But I'm pretty sure that most of you are aware about how important it is to have a logo. And the main reason is the logo is like the face of your business. It might be one of the first things that the customers is going to see and know about your business. The logo needs to speak for itself. You're not going to be there to explain the logo and to explain maybe your business and what is it that you do. The logo is going to do that. So it is very important that right before we decide that we need a logo, that we're going to, whether it is a new logo because we're starting out, or we want to refresh an old logo that maybe we got in a rush, or for any reason, there are some questions that you need to ask to yourself. And it's pretty similar to the process of getting custom cookies. If you have a customer that doesn't know what they want, you might make cookies that you like. You might pick a theme, you might choose some colors, and the customer might like them or not. There's no connection, there's no intention, and it is just a hit and miss. So when you're getting a logo, it is exactly the same. Before you either start designing it or you ask somebody else to design your logo, you need to have everything pretty clear, because nobody is going to guess for you, okay? So some questions that I like to ask my customers when we start working together are, I'm going to read some notes because I don't want to get nervous and miss information. So, very important. Why did you start your business? What are your beliefs and values that are important for you and for your company? What do you do better than everybody else? What sets you apart from the competition? Another question is, I like to ask my customers, if you could describe your brand or your products in just 1, 2, or 3 words, what would that be? How would you like the customers to see you? You as a business, of course. And those are some just of the questions you might ask yourself. The point being is you need to have everything pretty clear, so the person that is designing the logo can put all that information towards the final design. So thank you, Heather, for quoting and making notes. If you have questions, I would rather answer those at the end, so I don't, if I start reading the comments, I'm going to lose my train of thought. So we can do questions at the end. I already have some questions that I gathered from the group. So let's see. One question that nobody asked in the group, and I think this is pretty important, especially because most of you, well, most of us are small businesses. How much should you pay for a logo? And I'm not going to give you a number because I think there's way too many factors, and it's the same as with cookies. You might be happy with charging $24 for cookies. You might not work for less than $60 a dozen cookies. So one thing that I will tell you, in order so you can make your decision better, is I think, this is not official information, this is me researching. I think there are basically like 3 tiers, same way we have with cookies. So there's a pretty basic tier, and you can get in places like Etsy a logo for like, I want to say 5, but let's say $15. You can get a logo. You need to be aware, there's nothing wrong if that's what you can afford right now. Just be aware that that's not going to be unique, that more people is going to have that logo, that it might not really describe your brand, your business. And well, if you have to go with that, I will do it as just a first step, and knowing that in the future you will need to refresh or rebrand. So another layer, I will say, and this is what I usually try to make with my customers, because I know nobody has a ton of money to put on a logo. So what I like to do is I will use stock pictures. I will use most of the time images that are already created, and I will just adapt them and change them, edit them, and create something that, even though, let's call it, it's like a cake mix. It's a doctor cake mix. That's kind of the second tier. You're going to have something that it was made for you, but it's not like if you, it's not like if you order the last high-end tier, which is like what a company would do. Then they have something created from scratch, and they do lines and colors, and everything is created from scratch, and there's a long process to create that, and those are thousands of dollars that most of us can afford right now. So I will suggest you to stretch a little bit and go with a second tier, and try to avoid the $15 logos, because then you might even pay a little bit more. And we had a couple months ago, we had somebody in the group that was going through something related with this. She bought a logo on Etsy. She was aware that it was not going to be a unique logo, but somebody else who also bought the logo, she thought that she owned that image and that picture and that vector, and she kind of started making things hard for our friend. So just save yourself all the bad times and going through that. You want to have something as unique as possible, without spending thousands, but it is possible, it can be done. Okay, so once you have all this in mind, you decided what is your brand, what you want to express with your logo. You decided if you're going to design the logo, if you're going to commission the logo. How can you evaluate if you're doing the right thing? So you might have seen, I have slides. You might have seen this image in the group, because every time that I see somebody asking for logos or showing a logo that got recently, some of them give me a heart. They stress me out, because I know you're paying, and it's a well-earned money. And well, I like sharing this image, and this is, I will share it again in the comments after the live is done. And it is basically 5 qualities that every logo should have. Logos, first of all, should be simple. They should be memorable. They should be timeless. They should be versatile, and they should be, of course, appropriated. And I'm going to go through all these qualities. And I think if you research online, you're going to find lists of like 10 qualities of a good logo, 10, 15, 20, I don't know. After some research, I figured out that these 5 pretty much are going to be very helpful, and some of the others are even part of this. So, simple. I'm going to show you some images. Most of them you are probably familiar with it, if not all. So your logo needs to be easily identifiable at a glance, and the best way we can achieve this is having a simple logo. If you see, what I want you to see in this picture is these are the first logos of famous companies, including, for example, Apple. And I want you to see how during the time what happened with the logos here? The one thing that happened with all of these logos is they got simpler. They got less elements, they got cleaner, and there's a German way to do things in design, and less is more, and that's the holy grail well, of logos. Less is more. Remember that logos have to be in many places, so the simpler the better. And that's something that triggers me every time I see some of the logos that some of you commission. The logos are just packed with little images, super cute images, with a whisk, with a cookie, with a cake, with a rolling pin, with a lot of fonts. And as a picture, if you print a poster, it's going to be beautiful, but as a logo, they not always work. So again, this is not Vanessa talking. This is the people who knows how to do business. This is the result. This is how they have ended. And if you Google logos evolution in time, it is super funny because you can even see what people think they're going to end up with, like if they keep simplifying the logos. So if you think about any famous company, you will probably agree with me that they're all simple. Okay, so logos should be memorable, and part of being memorable is that if we start with a simple logo, it's easier to have a memorable logo. So here I have a bunch of logos, and I'm pretty sure, even just showing it 3 seconds to you, many of you recognize a lot of these logos. They're printed small, you're seeing them tiny in your screen, but many of you, I'm sure, recognize most of them because they're memorable. But they're memorable because they're simple. Okay? So, timeless. An effective logo should be timeless and should avoid trends. You're not doing a logo unless you're doing like a pop-up business and you plan to be in business for, let's say, the next 3 months or the next 2 years. You should not go old-fashioned with the logo, okay? You want something that speaks for your company, and you want something to last. Because yes, and I'm going to answer one of the questions that we had in the group. Before I asked if somebody wanted to post questions, and one of the questions was, let me find it. One of the questions was brand refresh. How often? You can of course refresh your brand. Refresh your brand means tweak the logo, change the color palette, upgrade the slogan, upgrade marketing material. That's a refresh. So you don't miss the essence. It's like wearing makeup versus getting a cosmetic surgery. Cosmetic surgery will be rebranding, and refresh would be going to the hair salon and getting a, blowout or something like that. So if we make sure that the design of our logo is timeless, then we will avoid having to rebrand many times. There's nothing wrong with rebranding, but you don't want to rebrand every year. You don't want to drive your customers crazy, because eventually what you want is to have people remembering and identifying your logo, right? So in which cases you should refresh, and this might be the case for many of us that maybe have been with a logo for a while now, and after today we realize that we need to do something about it, that it is outdated might be a reason that it changed. Maybe you change your business. For example, this was my logo when I first started 10 years ago in Cuba. It is still called Dulces Detalles. So it had a cupcake with a heart because, you know, I love what I was doing, and cupcakes were a big hit by then. So this was my logo. So now that I had to change, I moved almost 2 years ago to United States, and I had to like start all over. I started with Sweet Details GR, and instead of keeping the same logo, I decided that I didn't want to do that because I don't do only cupcakes anymore, and I don't want customers to relate my company with just cupcakes because it's much more like that. So another reason to refresh is if you're inconsistent, if you don't really have let's say a brand guidelines, and if you don't really have usually the same colors and things like that, that might be a reason to refresh the branding and decide, okay, these are the colors that I'm going to use now, and anything that is out of that is out of brand, so there's no reason. And then people is going to start identifying your brand by colors. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Maybe if your audience changed, that might be another reason to rebrand, to refresh. And if your company is growing and you're no longer a home baker, that might be a reason to refresh. So those are some of the reasons why you could refresh. There's nothing wrong about that, but be careful. You don't want to do it too often and get your customers all lost when it comes to the image of your business. Okay. Versatile. Logos should be versatile. And the best example I can give you about that is you need to have your logo in the sticker behind your cookie, right? Most of you, whether you are home bakers or you're commercial, license, whatever, not only you might have to, but you should. Everything. Somebody was asking, and here I'm going to answer another question. Somebody was asking, where should my logo, where should I put the logo? You should put the logo everywhere. It doesn't get old because you don't know who's going to see that. So when I started 10 years ago, with the K-Pops, I was bagging the K-Pops, I was tying the K-Pops, and I designed a really tiny tag that said, sometimes it will say the name of the kid, sometimes it will say happy whatever, but it was not about any of that. It was about having my contacts in the back. So with every order, if they order 2,000 people will see my contacts, my logo, my phone, and that's really important. Everywhere. Repeat after me. The logo should be everywhere. So in order to be everywhere, it has to be versatile. And one way to do that is with what is called responsive logos. First of all, going back, if it is simple, there won't be any trouble with having it everywhere. And another thing that I want to note, and it is very important, you need to be able to read the logo. Not you, your customers, everybody should be able to read your logo. Anywhere your logo is, it needs to be readable. So sometimes I see logos that you post, that you're in the process of getting a new logo, and even the size of the screen, I can barely read the logo. So it is very important that you are able to read the logo, because once you print that logo in the back of a cookie, if you cannot read it, we're not doing anything. And I want to say more. You should be able to have your logo in a pen. You should be able to have your logo in an airplane. When it comes to cookies, That's the best example. Labels, small stickers versus a billboard, because we're all going to be famous bakers, right? Heather, Corey, back me up here. We're all going to be famous, and at some point we're going to have our logos in the side of the road in a billboard, and it has to work. It has to work there, but it also has to work when we go to CookieCon and we have a booth and we decide we're going to have to give away scribes, pens, whatever. So this is what is called responsive logos. This means that the logo can change in size, in complexity, or maybe even some of the colors to adapt to whatever they place. It is not that you're going to have 3 different logos, okay? It is one logo that you will be able to adapt to different contexts. And for example, we have Walt Disney. This is the main logo, but where you see this with the castle, you see Walt Disney, or you see just Disney, you recognize the company, you recognize the logo, and you don't even think, where is the castle? This is not real Disney because there's no castle. With Heineken, same. Depending on the collateral, you might need just something as simple as the red star. And now that we're talking about that, I'm going to show you this. You don't necessarily need to know this, but I'm going to show you an example of the logo components so you have an idea. So this would be the logo with the tagline. In this case, we have the logo type with the tagline. The logo type refers to what is basically just the letters, you know, the name. And in this case, we have only the tagline, and that might work, and people might recognize that and automatically know that it is you and your brand or your company. This is what is called the logo, which is both the logo type, so it is the letters, and it is the logo mark. And then we have, well, we have it here. We already see that. So this one up there. Logo type plus logo mark make the logo. Okay? So we go back here. We don't necessarily have to always use the entire thing, but in order to do that successfully, it has to be designed to be able to do that. Okay? It doesn't mean that I'm just going to chop my logo in half because it doesn't, you know, fit here, so I'm just gonna cut it. Most of small businesses, and with what we pay for a logo, we're not going to get what is called brand guidelines, and that's if you're a company and you, you know, get a designer to design your branding, your logo, or whatever. Something that they need to do is the brand guidelines, and basically it says, this is your logo, you can use it in these colors, you cannot stretch the logo, you cannot use it on top of a picture, things like that. So what I do with my customers is I have different packages. I have 2 packages, and you can either have just the logo, like a basic package, the logo. I usually like to give a black and white version. That is very important that you always have a black and white version. And this is, I'm now going, well, I'm going to go through one more slide and then I'm going to go back to that. Many people ask about color. And here we have some logos that are basically easily identifiable with one color. And you also need to have in mind that colors reflect by themselves. They reflect moods and they have meanings, and all that is important to put on your cookies. It's not, oh, I'm going to put it blue because I like blue, because blue might mean sadness, might mean, I don't know, some other stuff that you don't even know, but the designer should know. And it is also important, the context, because in some countries one color has a meaning that is totally different than it in a different place in the world. So going back, I think, well, the last one is a logo should be appropriate, and I think that one is pretty, like everybody knows it should be appropriate, but just so you know, if we're doing cookies for kids' birthday parties, maybe it is not the best idea to have like a super sexy cartoon of us holding a tray of cookies. So I think that would be an example of something that wouldn't be appropriated when it comes to cookie logos. And then I'm going to go back to what should you expect and what you should ask for when you get a logo made, okay? I'm going to tell you what I give to my customers. And it, of course, changes. Some people might have packages that include some stuff or the other. They might charge more or less depending on what you get. But there are some things that are really important that you need to get. It's not just a picture with the logo. That's not going to do it, okay? We need a little bit more. So this is from the top of my head. You need a white and black version. Even if you have a super colorful logo, you need a black and white version of your logo to make sure not only that it works, but so you are able to use it. Because sometimes you want to print a t-shirt and you don't want to pay different colors because it's cheaper when you use only one color. That shouldn't be a problem. Not only the logo should be designed to work in one color, but you should have that art, okay? I usually give my customers the images in as a PNG, which has no background. It's a translucent background, transparent background, so you can use that image and use it as a watermark. You can use it in a different background for I don't know, a big sign or anything you want to do with it. But it is important to have at least one version of the logo as a PNG, so you have the ability of, first of all, use it as a watermark, because that's really, really important for cookers and bakers. You need to watermark your pictures, not only so the baker, I don't know, any other baker steals your work, but so the customers, when they see the picture, they know where it came from, okay? So watermarks are very important. One thing that you could ask, that this is optional, this is in the second tier of the packages I offer, the source file. And that's the file that the designer used to create your logo. And that's something that eventually you're going to need, because with that file, that you probably won't be able to use it, but if you want to print something big, or if you want to refresh the brand, that is the file that you need to provide the next designer so they can work. It's the original design, okay? I like to include a business card design. I will give, if you have worked with me, you know, I will give a couple options, so you can even use and mix and match and have different versions, or you can have a thank you card, just a little application, you know, a collateral with your logo, so you know how it looks like. You need to define, when you have a logo done, you need to define a color palette. And that is something, again, that has to come from that brief at the beginning. Your designer can probably advise you, but it is not up to the designer to decide the colors of your brand, okay? So you need to give a little help. It's the same as when we get an order for cookies. The more info the customer gives to us, the easier the cookies are. Logos are not a thing. Most of us like to get orders where they give us design freedom. Logos are not a good thing to give freedom to the designer, okay? Because they need to speak for you and they need to be the way you want them, but also listen to the designer, okay? Yeah, you need to make some decisions, unfortunately. But well, hopefully you will find a good designer that is easy to work with and you will get to an understanding. What else do I give you? If you have worked with me, what else do I give you? I think from the top of my head, those are the most important things that you need to request from the designer when you're getting your logo done. And then I'm going to show you some brands of famous bakeries. Some are Eleni's. I don't know if you guys know Eleni's. Eleni's is in New York, and it was one of the first companies that started making decorated cookies, and they got commercial and they're huge. And well, there's crumble cookies, which is very popular these days, a favorite of everyone, Carlos Bakery. If you make macaroons, I'm sure you know Ladre. And I have a couple others that you might or might not know, but they're bakers, and as you can see, they have pretty simple designs. So I want to show you this not only because yes, there's a lot of companies like here with simple designs, and you might think, yeah, but they're not bakers. No, these are bakers, these are famous, and this is the way they're doing it. So I'm going to start asking questions. I think, okay, one last thing, because then you might be wondering, where do I put my watercolors, and where do I put my whisk and the flowers and all that? If you find a good designer that can make it right for you, that's perfect. But there's nothing wrong with having a simple logo that is going to work with what is called support graphics, okay? And part of the branding guidelines might be, okay, for my brand, I have my logo now, but part of the guidelines is going to be, I'm going to use watercolor backgrounds, and I'm going to use these specific flowers, and I'm going to use pictures of these elements, and that might work along with your logo, but it doesn't necessarily need to be on your logo, okay? I'm going to put you the example of my new logo. I went super simple. It's just the letters. It is the name and the city, because now the city is part of the name. And I went with the colors that I wanted to keep with my brand. I went with a font that is like it simulates a handwritten font, because I want to give the idea of that everything is handmade. So that's part of the feeling that I want to give with the logo. And then it was pretty simple. I just modified some of the fonts to have a balance, just because I'm crazy about things being symmetrical and equilibrated. I changed a couple features, and now I have a logo. I recently, I apologize, I don't have any picture. I recently made my labels for the spring collection, and the logo was packed up with flowers, drums of flowers. For the summer collection, I'm going to use monstera leaves and things like that. Having a really simple logo allows me to play with all the rest of graphic elements that I want. It will always work. If I want to put a cake on top, it's going to work. If I want to put cookies, if I want to put macarons, it is always going to work. There's nothing wrong with the stock whiz rolling pin and all that. The point is, a lot of people might have that. So just be aware of what you're getting, because that's very important. You need to know what you're using, and you might be fine with having a logo that everybody else is using, and that might be, I don't know, that might be the way you want to do things to start with. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not recommendable. Okay, so I have a couple questions from earlier, and then if you want to drop your questions now while I answer this, I'm gonna take a peek at those. And if you're watching the replay, make sure you comment replay, you write replay before putting your question or comment, so I make sure that I come back later and answer those questions. So some of the questions were, let me find the questions. Okay. Let me know if I'm missing something, okay? So one of the questions was gradients in color schemes. There is nothing wrong with gradients. Actually, gradients became trendy again a couple of years ago. It looks like it's going to stay for a while. There's nothing wrong with it. Just make sure that you have a one color version of your logo, so you can use it in a stamp. Stamp is the best example I can give you about why it is important that your logo works in one color. If you want to get a stamp, there's not going to be watercolor, and there's not going to be all the, I don't know how to even call it. There's not going to be any of that in a stamp. Whatever you can stamp, that should be your logo. So gradients are good. Just make sure it works in one color. And a good example of that is, let me see, I think I have it here. Yeah, Instagram, they went with the gradient, but they also have the one color version. So another question was font best practice. And another question was, how much text is much text? And I'm going to answer these two at the same time. I would recommend to have probably one or two fonts in your logo. You can have one font in the main name, and then you can have a secondary font on the tagline. Make sure that they complement each other. Make sure that they have a good balance. Cursive fonts are always a plus if you want to, give the idea of handmade or homemade, or something that you made with your hands and it was made with care. That is always a good idea, to have a cursive, like simulating handwriting like I did here. If you want to go with something more elegant, I would suggest fonts with serif. Those are usually more elegant than the fonts without serif. The serif is like the this little thing here. Those are the serif. These letters, these fonts are usually more elegant, and well, that could be an entire life just talking about fonts. But a good idea, I think, and a good advice is one for the primary name and then a secondary one that complements the name, okay? And how much text is much text? First of all, if it's too much text that people won't want to finish reading, it is much text. But if it's too much text that when you put it in a small label, people won't be able, not only if they want, people won't be able to read it, that is too much text, okay? For marketing collateral, you recommend everyone to start. Okay, marketing collateral is everything that pretty much everything that you use to promote your brand, and anything with your brand will be pretty much a collateral. And nowadays, it used to be printed signs most of the time, printed materials, and now with the social media and all that, well, pretty much everything you can make in Canvas, it will be also a collateral. So my advice, first of all, business card. Business cards with your information, whatever you want to put. For example, I only put my website because not everybody has Instagram, not everybody is on Facebook. I don't want people calling me on the phone, so they can go to the website. They're going to too much, oh boy, text, too much that text. Somebody's no, I didn't say too much text, too much text. Text, T-A-X-T. Don't make me spell. Okay, Lisa, please. Okay, going back to the serious business. Business card. And business cards, not only you can hand out, if you're in the supermarket, you can, I don't know, sometimes when I'm at Costco, the people the cashiers are like, oh, somebody's doing some baking. I'm like, yeah, I have a business. This is my card. So business cards are always good to have handy. That will be the number one. Oh boy. I would suggest you to have a t-shirt, or if you like to wear hats or caps, something like that, something you can wear. And like if you're going to buy supplies, or if you're going to deliver an order, or if you, I don't know, if you go to the park or the movies, something with your logo. Something important about the collateral materials is they should have a call to action. So, okay, if you only have room for the logo, that's fine. But always try to put a call to action. That can be the phone number, that can be your Instagram, that could be the website, that could be as simple as, I'm a baker, ask me. And that's a call to action. And that would make people talk to you or something like that. You're into that. I will never do that myself, but well. Something you can wear with your logo. And this is also, I'm answering a question that I saw early, that where should I put my logo? This is a good thing. Stickers, because stickers, you can put them in your products, you can put them in the packaging, you can put it in, I don't know, leave them behind in some places. And yeah, stickers is a really good thing to have with your logo and any info you want to give. And I would suggest a table runner or a tablecloth. I'm suggesting a table runner because it's smaller and it's cheaper. But most of you, if you don't make a pop-up, you have pickups, porch pickups, or maybe you went to a show, or I don't know, maybe you're just, I don't know, parking in the parking lot in front of the supermarket, and having people come and pick up the stuff. You can put a table runner there so people identify your business. If you can make a sign, that's better. But a table runner is cheap, it's something you can fold, and it's something you can pretty much use for any interaction with the customer. So those will be my 4 collateral for people that is starting out. Business cards, t-shirt or something you can wear, stickers, and a table runner or tablecloth. What else? That was also a 201. Where do you put your logo? Again, everywhere. Your logo should be everywhere. Anywhere that you're sending a message to your customer, your logo should be there. Maybe it's in a small corner, maybe it doesn't need to be, the logo and the information. Maybe primarily the information and the logo. I stopped because I'm reading. Call to action, put the QR code on your shirt. I don't know if I want people taking pictures of, I don't know. But well, that could be. QR codes, what are your thoughts? QR codes, they pretty much don't have anything to do with logos, but my thoughts are use them wisely. I started, when I started with Google My Business, I wanted to let people know that I was there, and I wanted to make things easier for people to leave a review. So I made a sticker that I will put in every box, like, somebody's not taking things serious. Heather, I want to report somebody, and she knows who she is. Well, I made a sticker, and I'm like, let me know how we did. Let us know how we did. And I had a QR code that will take them straight to Google reviews. QR codes for ingredients, I think is brilliant. Unfortunately, most of the states don't allow that as a cottage baker. So make sure you can do that. Should you have different versions of the logo? That's what we talk about, having the we already talked about that. And what are the most important aspects to include? Those 5 qualities are very important. I'm going to share the image here in the comments again, so you have it. So any other questions? Okay, I don't know if I have to go all the way back. Okay, if you have any questions, and if you're watching live, let me know now. And if you're watching the replay, just make sure you write replay, make your question, and I'm going to keep coming back and answer via message. Somebody asked, if we don't use the stock with rolling pin, etc., that everyone uses, is font the best way to make our logo unique, especially if we are trying to simplify? Font is amazing. Personally, I love flat logos, which is like 2D logos, let's put it that way. And there's nothing wrong. Don't be afraid. Don't think that you have to tell the whole story in the logo, okay? It is better to put all that energy getting a good name, which I don't know how I could help with that. Just it has to be, that's so personal. I don't know what can I say about picking a name. So I'm just going to ignore that question and say that the other twin is my favorite. So put the energy on the name, and then the name with the right font is going to speak by itself. And it doesn't mean that you cannot use the whiz, the rolling pin. You can use them, just in a creative way. There are ways to do that. What about using your real name in your logo? You know what? A lot of famous bakers, that's what they do. Bakers and famous designers and pretty much most of the famous people, they want to have their name, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's totally fine. I don't know. I didn't think my name was very artistic for that, but there are plenty brands that what they use is the name. That's totally fine. That's a good thing to do. And that is going to be for sure unique. Unless your name is Mary Poppins. That's not going to be very unique. I'm glad you're liking my slides. Okay. QR codes. Already talked about QR codes. I've seen they are replacing logo and info for the QR codes on back of cookies. First of all, I will never replace my logo. If there's only one thing, if I only have a half-inch by half-inch space, my logo is going there, and then whatever else fits. But I'm not, leaving my logo out for any reason. Not everybody knows or want to use a QR code. So what would you miss on that? I'm reading. Rebranding. What do you think about rebranding if you've been in business 3+ years? Maybe you don't need to rebrand. Maybe you just need a refresh. But if you need to rebrand, there's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure that that is what you need, okay? Before you commit to rebranding means changing the name. Rebranding means changing the way things work. So, and rebranding will be the surgery, and refresh would be going to the salon. Maybe all you need to do is refresh colors, tweak the logo. So just make sure where you are and what is exactly that you need to do. Let me send your logo. Can we send you our logo and get your feedback for an opportunity of improvement? You can send me your logo. That's part of my business. I design logos, whether it is a new logo or it is a refresh. I do that. I'll be happy to do it for some of you. Actually, there's people here in the live right now that I did their logo, so you can ask around and they will let you know if they like working with me. Okay. That's it. No more questions. This was great. I know when more people watch, they're going to have, they might have more questions. I'll make sure I go back and answer all the. Oh, thank you. And of course, I don't want to go away without saying thank you to Heather and Corey. And every time I have the opportunity, I tell them how grateful I am, but I want to say it so you're watching my face. This group is amazing. We all love you, and we're all very, very lucky to have you doing all this that you do for us. So have a good night, everyone, and you know where to find me if you need a new logo. Bye, everyone.